Right now in studio, though, we do have Odhiambo Ramogi. He is an economist and the CEO of Elim Capital Limited. Mr. Odhiambo, welcome to Radio Generation. We are glad to have you this morning.
Thank you, asante sana.
You've just found us talking about, the state of the economy, Ruto at 3, and by extension, of course, we're talking about the Kenya Kwanza government at 3.
Right.
From an economic perspective, how are we performing?
Thank you. That's a very good question to ask. But let me also first appreciate my senior city. Good to see you after.
How are you?
I'm very fine.
You're well.
I am.
You look well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just from a different conversation that we were just interrogating the same question, and the answer to that question is an interesting one. Let me give you background. We came up with a blueprint for our economy called the Vision 2030. Kibaki pushed it significantly, and I think the major achievements under Kibaki were not even economic, but just laying the grounds for it in terms of the constitutional framework. When Uhuru came, there was the need to push so that we get accelerated growth. And for 10 years, that was the strategy. Now, for you to accelerate growth, you do two things. You either borrow, and if you borrow, what happens is you expect this money that you've borrowed to go down to the economy. That's what we call top-down, percolate in the economy. He will kill me for using that word again. Percolate in the economy.
Yeah.
And then you expect it to create the desired multiplier effect and grow.
Right.
So the guys at Treasury advised Uhuru that this was the best way to go. He borrowed significantly. Now the challenge of that borrowing is that
are we still talking about President Kibaki?
No.
Giving you a background.
I'm giving you a background.
Okay, all right.
So for the 10 years of Uhuru, we borrowed a lot. The challenge of that borrowing is when this money comes, it comes into one pot called the government pot, or Treasury. And the challenge of you having a lot of money in one pot is the people managing it will always be tempted to take a lot of it, and very little gets to the ground. On the flip side, you could drive growth using investments. And these investments would come through innovation, small businesses here and there, now that attract money to come into them. And that money rotates and creates a multiplier effect. And that's how you get growth. This is what we call the bottom-up approach. So the problem of the bottom-up approach is you really don't have a lot of control on it. All you have to do as the person in charge of the economy is to create the enabling environment. What happened now is we let go of that. Now, after that background, so let me now come to where are we right now. This is sort of an austerity government, a caretaker government that is trying to handle the mess of the failed accelerated growth. And why do I call it the failed accelerated growth? Because we borrowed 3 times in that period of time. He got the loans at 3 trillion. He pushed it to 9 trillion. By the time he was leaving, we were at 9 trillion, facing getting to 10 trillion. And that's around 3 times what he got. But if you look at growth at 5% per annum, that's around, in 10 years, that's around 50% only. So 300% versus 50%. You see, that was a very inefficient way of doing business. And this is why we say it was accelerated. It was a failed accelerated growth. This is a caretaker government trying to handle that mess. Now, have they achieved in handling that mess? So I am a microeconomist. I say, in terms of the prices of food items, they found the prices up there, and of course there was also the failed attempt at subsidizing. It didn't work. So that has sort of stabilized. We have food prices that have stabilized. In terms of the foreign exchange rate, at that time we were at 150. One of the biggest miracles for economists in this country is how we've stabilized at 129 to 130 in about 1.5, I think 18 months now, getting to...
how do you actually explain that, Ramogi?
I have sat with fellow economists. We are not seeing where the money is coming from in terms of the dollars. There's no significant increase in our sales of the cash crops. There's no significant increase in our exports.
Our balance of trade, are we experiencing a deficit, a surplus?
No. It's still it's still the deficit. It's still the same.
The same deficit.
Yes, but we have stabilized. So it's one of the biggest, I think, the 8th wonders of the world. Initially, when this was happening around the time of Kibaki, we used to say, informally, of course, that I think it's the dollars coming from the piracy in the high seas. We could not say that too loudly. Now, that one, it's not even there. So we cannot really tell you that this is where the money is coming from. But the dollar is stable.
I have to ask this question.
Ask.
What is it that stabilizes the dollar against the shilling, or the shilling against the dollar? What are the normal factors that would contribute to that stabilization?
Oh, thank you. Demand and supply. So when the demand for the dollar is high, of course, the price of the dollar goes up. So
it goes up if the supply does not meet the demand.
No.
When the demand is high.
When the demand is high.
Period.
When you are discussing the two sides of the coin,
Yes.
Discuss one at a go.
All right.
Ceteris paribus, all factors concerned.
So I will sit back and listen. Please continue.
When the demand for the dollar increases, the price increases. When the demand drops, now with the supply, it's the other side. When the supply is a lot, the price drops. When the supply is decreased, so we have stable supply because we have not seen an increase in supply, which means therefore that the real factor at play here is the demand. Is it possible that the government, the G2G arrangement that the government had with the Gulf is working? There has not been a study that is able to demonstrate that it's actually working and stabilizing our Forex exchange. Or is it that therefore there has been some level of democratization of that space that has made the demand to go low? So that is one of the wonders of the world, if I can put it at that. Now, so in terms of the microeconomic indicators, the half is good, the other half is getting better. If you look at now what this guy is called the fiscal consolidation, I'm talking about the cost of living and incomes. Now, the cost of, incomes rather. If you look at incomes, the bigger challenge has been tax. These guys, for some reason, IMF told them that we are under-taxed, and so they need to tax us to our skin.
And they listened to IMF.
And they listened to IMF. And so for the last 2 years, that is what they called the fiscal consolidation, just taxing you more and more and more so that then they have sufficient revenue. That
have they actually gotten sufficient revenue?
Certainly not. However, they have managed to do is they've managed to stabilize the debt situation, because many of us believed we were going to default, and they have managed to stabilize the debt situation so that now we are in a place where you can say the default is unlikely. We are not where we ought to be, but default is unlikely where we are at the moment. And so for me, the withdrawal from the fiscal consolidation program is a good sign. In other words, we are not reducing the taxes as yet, but we are also not increasing them. So that is a good development in the short run.
Is that the only variable that we need to look at in this discussion?
It is not. I told you I'm a microeconomist, so I'm looking at what is happening to your pocket. And what is happening to your pocket is right now, the government is not coming for your money to tax it as much as it used to. In fact, it is my expectation that all factors constant, the CS Treasury should come next year and tell us that, look, we are reducing this tax and this tax. Because the fiscal consolidation program has flopped. whether it is courtesy of June 25, 2024, or whether it is courtesy of successful economic management, the truth of the matter is fiscal consolidation as a program, as a policy in this government.
Odhiambo, this question, which is often asked by people who understand economics, I actually don't. I read, I understand some things, most things I don't understand. Now, what I'm about to say, I really don't understand.
No problem, sir.
From a layman's perspective, we do not have money and we need more money.
Right.
All right? For us to have money, me being the government, the only way we get money is if we tax people.
Right.
We are 50 plus 56 million. Those who are working among us, maybe 20 million or so.
Right.
So we assume these 20 million people in the various categories of jobs that they do form that consolidated group of individuals from whom we get money that contributes to our revenue. All right?
Right.
They are paying. We are also told at the same time that we have a situation where certain businesses are shutting down for economic reasons. Some didn't recover from the time of COVID.
Right.
We say because of this, some also reducing their capacity, so more and more people are losing jobs. Okay?
Right.
So those who can actually pay these taxes are getting fewer.
Correct.
So World Bank and their cousin come in and they tell us that in order to raise more money, we need to tax people more. Now, these people who are carrying the burden of tax have already reduced in number. What they were earning, they're probably not earning now.
Right.
Businesses that pay huge taxes are not doing what they're doing because their services are not being consumed because people do not have money. I would therefore assume that if the economy was more robust, more people would be able to do what they're supposed to do.
Precisely.
Does this then not lend itself to the logic that more money needs to be pumped into the economy rather than removed from the economy?
It does. If you follow the IMF logic, you will be a very angry individual, whether you are Kenyan or otherwise. And they have been blamed world across. And but let me punch holes into the IMF logic first before I come back to our argument. The IMF many of the IMF executives and economists come from the West, where the system is ideal. They fail to appreciate four realities. One is that there you pay high tax, and that tax actually works so that you really don't have to get into your pocket and still pay for health and education, and you don't have to get into your pocket and really pay for fixing your car because the roads are less than what they should be. So they fail to recognize that reality. Number two, they fail to recognize the reality of dependency. That you, as City Muga, may have some of the children of your brothers and your cousins who come to you because you work and they don't, and you carry their burden. And that's why you find people earning over $2,000 in Westlands, going to Mama Mboga somewhere, getting chapo beans, chapo mandondo, and then going back to the office, as opposed to going to, because they need to save that money. The third reality that they face to appreciate is that, yes, there is corruption. You after paying tax, when you go to get government services, you still have to pay for those government services. If you go to, you still have to pay someone to access those government services. If you go to some areas in this country, even when you get your money from the bank, you need to give the cashier a kickback, because it's a culture. It's almost a reality that's there. And so they fail to appreciate this fact when they come and say you are under-taxed. And that is one of the realities that we faced. And I think that's why the new cabinet secretary is slowly withdrawing from the fiscal consolidation program. Let me finish with jobs. I was saying something about the state of the economy. Yes, I agree that we are not where we need to be as regards jobs. One of the things that we look at as economists is there a way in which I, as Ramogi, can go and start a small business on the outskirts of Kibera and still survive, because that is a job in its way. If I am able to borrow money from a bank and do that successfully, then yes, we are able to create jobs. If I am not able to borrow money and do that successfully, then we are in a bad place. And where we are right now is we are the interest rates have fallen because now they can say that inflation has been managed. So we've seen the interest rates fall from a high of as high as 16 to 8%. That is progressive, but we still don't have jobs. So we are hoping that those jobs will come.
So we have a comment here from one Eric Mandela. Eric anasema hivi, the Kenya Kwanza government has struggled with rising public debt and inflation, which has eroded citizens' purchasing power despite promises of economic relief. Do you agree with that statement?
The Kenya Kwanza administration?
Yeah, so the Kenya Kwanza government has struggled with rising public debt and inflation, which has eroded citizens' purchasing power despite promises of economic relief.
Yes, they have. The debt situation has been there, and I think that's what I started with, that the borrowing has eroded our economic realities and aspirations. Jobs are not being created as much as they should. Businesses have been closed. So that is a reality. Have they met some of the promises in terms of lowering the cost of living? Absolutely. Waswahili wanasema mgala muue na haki yake umpe.
He also goes on to say, moreover, frequent policy shifts and the high cost of living have raised concerns about whether its development agenda is effectively addressing the everyday needs of ordinary Kenyans. Let me say that again. Moreover, frequent policy shifts and high cost of living have raised concerns about whether its development agenda is effectively addressing the everyday needs of ordinary Kenyans.
Well, we've all wanted a stable tax policy where you have one tax policy that is running for at least 5 years, because for government policy to be effective, it needs for an economic policy to be effective, it needs to take time to thaw and for it to take hold. That is not the case as it is right now, and we are looking forward to that being the case.
Yeah.
So the constant shifts here and there really is not good for business.
You started by saying that Kibaki brought in this issue of Vision 2030,
right?
And you went on to say that there was accelerated growth.
There was a desire for accelerated growth in the last administration.
Yeah,
that desire was not achieved.
All right. How else would, like, in terms of the delivery of growth, whether accelerated
in
or
which
otherwise?
Government? The Kibaki government or the Uhuru government?
The Uhuru government is the one that came with an aggressive desire for an accelerated growth, and that's why there was aggressive borrowing. In his last speech to Parliament, he said our strategy was to have an accelerated growth, and I demonstrated to you that even though there was the desire and the strategy was to borrow to meet that desire, it was never met. And so we ended up growing our economy 50%. So in other words, by the time he's leaving, our economy was 1.5 times what it was under Kibaki, but our borrowing was 3 times what it was under Kibaki.
Yeah, so, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I wanted to ask, how differently would that president have done things to ensure that we don't see the kind of problems that have been transferred from his administration to the current one?
Investments. Investments. And I think that's where many of them miss it, because you come and you feel like if it is to be, it's up to me. Public sector driven growth is a fallacy. We economists measure GDP using government expenditure, but it is a fallacy. We know it's a fallacy because real growth must come from the private sector. And so if
why?
Why?
Yes.
Because it is more sustainable. It's more organic. It's this one of the public sector is merely an illusion. It gives you an illusion of growth, but there is no real.
What does this illusion look like when we are looking at the illusion of development that has been created by the government? What does this illusion look like?
Growth, not development.
What does this growth look like?
Dr. Miskela was here, I think, 2 weeks ago. He said that we have met, for instance, the WHO standards of, having a health facility every few kilometers. I can't remember exactly what he said.
Right, that's development.
Yeah. He said we have those hospitals there, the health facilities or clinics, but they are not manned.
Now that is infrastructure. What does this growth look like? This growth looks like hustler fund. Government is spending money to lend people money, but that money is not being used in doing business. This growth looks like what now he's talking about, building infrastructure that does not really bring forth the growth that it is.
You're an economist. Yes. Infrastructure and the development of it has always been touted by economics as one of the biggest facilitators of this thing that we are referring to, is it not?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
So are we saying that if we look at what was borrowed for the development of infrastructure, didn't actually go into infrastructure as was intended?
Let me give you the example of the SGR. I love talking about the SGR. We spent around 1 trillion shillings on constructing the SGR.
We did what?
We spent around 1 trillion shillings in constructing the SGR. There was the amount which was borrowed, around 5 billion USD, and then there was the amount that we deposited in a Chinese bank account, and then there was amount we spent on paying the landowners.
Why did we deposit the money in the Chinese account again? When you are opening an
1 trillion.
No, hold it. We have already borrowed 5 billion US. That one we've chalked down, we've borrowed.
No. For you to get that 5 billion US, you need to show seriousness, that you are a serious borrower. And so deposit some money with us. And I think we deposited around $1 billion.
Wait. What sort of logic is that again?
I have no idea. But that is what happened.
No, is that what lending is anchored on really?
Well, that's what happened. And so we spent around 1 trillion shillings. But now, in constructing the SGR, one, if the amount was reasonable, which means then it would lower the cost of transporting goods from Mombasa to Nairobi and from the hinterland to the port and for exports. That would significantly spur growth. Because now it gives you accessibility, you access greater places. SGR, the rail is a lot cheaper to transport through. Secondly, while constructing, the process of constructing it would mean that 1 trillion shilling is circulating in our economy, creating a multiplier effect. Now, if we say we use the normal multiplier effect that we are aware of right now, say of 4, that would mean that out of this investment of 1 trillion, the money that would come by that money circulating would grow is around 4 trillion shillings. We'll have an additional 3 trillion shillings out of that investment. But was that the case? No. We gave that money to the Chinese, who came even with their own vegetables. They came with the cleaner. They came with everybody. They came with their equipment. They came with materials. The only money that was circulating was the money paid to the laborers, which is really maybe 10% of, less than 5% of that. And so that you have an expenditure of 1 trillion, but it is not circulating in the economy. And so ideally, yes, infrastructure development is supposed to give you growth. This one of ours is a mongrel. The other one is what he was saying. You have development on paper that, yes, we have a dispensary here. And so in terms of indicators of am I able to access a health service within a radius of 20 kilometers?
We tick that box.
We tick that box. But I am not able to get proper services.
How much did we deposit in that Chinese bank?
You said 500 billion?
No, around 200.
200 billion Kenya shillings.
Kuonyesha huko serious. You must demonstrate.
When they ask you, what do you bring to the table? 200 billion.
But the project financing doesn't work like that.
There is nothing ideal about the SGR.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing. From even the feasibility study, to procurement, to even how it's operating today. There is nothing ideal about that. You just say it's one of those errors that somehow is in the legacy of.
But let me ask you something. If that's the case, how did we allow this particular project to take off?
We
as Kenyans. Yeah.
What was it presented as? Remember,
because I am not a.
Our laws are very clear. We borrow for development. That's it.
Period.
Borrow. When you look at all these loans that we borrow, whether it is the Euro bond or the whatever bond or whether IMF, whatever you want to call it, nobody ever asks us to go and put a deposit in some bank in Brussels. We are lent the money. And that money is supposed to go to the consolidated fund.
Right. Straight to the.
That's where it's supposed to go. But we have this unique situation where you are told you have borrowed, the money doesn't even get to the consolidated fund. So you're asking, so this we is who exactly? Because if it is us, it has to be the consolidated fund. Then it's our money. We know, because that's where now we divvy out the money to do what we want to do. Now you're talking about the SGR. And you're introducing concepts that are I'm finding them mind-boggling. And in the process, you're going to find that we were then still paying for, the things we paid for that SGR.
A lot. It's a clean trillion. If you look at it properly, it's a clean trillion that was spent on that thing.
So the reason I'm asking this, Mr. Ramogi, is because I want to know, where were the experts when all this came together and we finally gave birth to this baby?
We were watching on TV, like every other Kenyan. Because, and the reason we were watching on TV is because when government decides to do something, it does something. And even when you go public participation, because now the parliament is saying we passed for them their law, and they're calling it unpopular. No, it wasn't unpopular. It was unreasonable.
Yes.
And they are saying it was unpopular. They know it was unpopular. Why? Because of public participation. Public participation happened, told them don't do this, and they went ahead and did it. It's the same thing.
So we have all these experts that we have in this country, people who've gone to university, some of them even have PhDs in economy, and there's nobody that was like, people didn't have the spine to actually say this is going to hurt the economy.
Movie, do you know just how knowledgeable people in the treasury are? Do you know just how...
I'm talking about people outside government.
No. Those people advise, don't be fooled.
Yes.
They state, the document what needs to be done.
Yes.
And how it ought to be done. The discussion we're having here is they are ignored. That's the discussion we're having here. Because somebody had a plan which has nothing to do with experts lending their view on this matter.
But their pockets.
Yes, because how do you explain if the Chinese government gave us a loan and then they brought their people, we would say, okay, it's their money, and we'll pay it over the next 50 years, 30 years.
Yes.
And the expertise that is required, many of them with their own people. The usual loans that over the years, third world governments like ours have borrowed from the Europeans, because in borrowing, you're also creating a market for their goods. You give us these tired old trains that they gave us, they soon require repair. They're the ones who have the spare parts. We haven't trained our engineers to repair them, etc., etc. But when you have a situation where it is actually our money which we have borrowed, and then the terms on which we borrowed seems to favor the person who lent us, then you wonder,
extremely,
how on earth did we get into this deal?
Yeah. Do these kinds of things happen in first world countries? I'm curious to find out, so that maybe I'm overjudging this place. Do these things happen in Germany? Do they happen in Sweden, Switzerland? Do they happen?
No, I've not heard. Even though now China is lending even to European countries, but I've not heard that some of the terms they are giving us as being the terms they are giving to.
So why us then?
We still have this exploitative regime, like you are to be exploited, either for raw materials or for as a market or for labor. It's the same thing. I don't think that has changed, and we find ourselves there more and more and more.
Yeah, there's actually when you say that, I've just remembered a comment that was written here in the first hour by a guy called, or rather a viewer called Abokas. I don't know if it's a guy or a lady, but Abokas said this: can we have a discussion one day about Africans' inferiority complex in relation to Europeans? So perhaps even in our borrowing, does this come out in one or another?
No, that guy should not punch our pride. But we are not inferior, we don't even feel inferior.
Because,
the problem is that greed takes hold of negotiation.
Because if Europe...
just a minute.
Okay.
So that apparently the other day I realized that there was a report that the Kenyatta family has interests in the China roads and CRBC. So that now by the time you are having this negotiation, the guy who is signing on behalf of Kenya is actually the beneficiary of this deal.
Right.
So that the conflict of interest is extreme, and that conflict of interest then makes such a deal to you have lost it on the day you voted for that guy, not on the day that he signed. You lost that battle on the day you voted him in. And so it's nothing to do with inferiority complex. It has everything to do with greed. Our people are greedy. By the time they are going to the negotiating table, they are going with their stomachs, not their head. They are not thinking about the next generation. They are not thinking about. Our people are greedy.
So our issue here is integrity. It has got nothing to do with we are feeling.
No,
we don't see these kinds of like you said. China is even lending now to some European countries.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there is no way they'll tell this European country, come and deposit 200 billion before we give you this loan.
One of the deputy prime minister of the UK, this lady, resigned the other day, and the reason she resigned is because she failed to pay taxes.
Oh no, she paid, but she did not pay the right amount of tax.
Correct. And so now, I compare that to Kenya.
Here they refuse to pay, there is nothing you will do.
No. Refuse to pay is even an understatement. Do you know there are politicians that declare zero income? Me, zero. I didn't get anything. And no one is resigning. Resign where? How? Who? And it's not just the taxes. It's also they get into there's abuse of office. They get into the funds that the other Kenyans have paid, and they actually eat it. And out of Peleka.
Then how do we? Because I feel no matter who we elect at this point, using your statement, you're saying it starts from us electing individuals that we know will do the right thing. But I feel at this point, it doesn't matter who we elect. If they won't listen to advice, if they won't listen to counsel from within their ranks or even outside, then what are we saying?
In fact, I would be more comfortable with a president right now who doesn't listen to advice. You've seen some of the advisors that...
it is said that actually our president doesn't listen to advice.
No. You've seen some of the advisors he has. I would be... If I can have a president who has integrity and don't care what you say and don't care if you threaten him, and he will do what he needs to do, come rain, come sunshine, we will have a good day. Some sort of benevolent dictator. We'll be grateful. The problem we have is we've had dictators, but dictators who are more wako na njaa kuliko wale wanastahili kusaidia.
Essentially anasema wako na njaa kuliko hekima. Amenda huko.
Yeah.
You know, the discussion we're having is important because right now thinkers who purport to understand economics,
yes,
and then those who consume that knowledge as manifested by the output within a country, we are told that the cost of living has gone down. But there is, alongside it, another reality. This low cost of living cannot be afforded by very many Kenyans.
Incomes.
So how low is it really low? That's one.
Yeah.
We are told there is growth. Okay? When you hear growth, something is moving upwards and it's supposed to be better. It's supposed to help certain things improve. Okay? Again, why is it then that with this growth we have situations where more and more people find themselves unemployed? Many businesses find there aren't enough customers to buy or to uptake their services or to buy whatever they have. And so which means this very money that we are speaking of is in shorter and shorter supply and circulation. And you look at the key sectors, health, education, in my mind, you find that the free education that we're told no longer exists. So parents are being asked to pay more. Now the understanding of paying higher taxes, as Ramogi mentioned, was so that some of these services will be provided for you, so you don't have to worry. Right. So now you're paying more taxes and you're still paying fees. So the little income you have is encumbered even further.
So what can we do going forward just to ensure, and by we I mean what can you advise our leadership to do to ensure that we can get out of this matope that we are currently in? We have offices such as that of the control of budget and also the Auditor General. They've been coming out to say, first of all, what has been agreed in terms of budget is not being done. Then we have the Auditor General coming out and telling us that, look, I'm raising questions about A, B, C, D, and I think that is where the problem is.
Right.
Yeah, in my opinion. Perhaps you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're not. And first of all, let me commend the offices of the Auditor General and the Control of Budget. I think they have done a splendid job, irrespective of which administration is in power. They have kept to the promise. If there's any office that has worked in terms of creating accountability in this country, is those two offices, and we look forward to learning a lot from them. The second thing that I'd want to comment on is what City Muga had highlighted, which is the whole question of jobs and incomes. And yes, there is progress in terms of the cost of living. Yes, there's a progress in terms of stabilization of the currency. Yes, there's progress in terms of the tax situation. At least the fiscal consolidation is coming down, but we still need jobs and we still need incomes that are sustainable. One of the things that I have highlighted before, and I'll say again, that will create those jobs and improve on incomes, is investment. And so the government needs to think aggressively, how do we attract investment? Because that will make the significant difference. One of the things that spurs local investment is interest rates. If the interest rates are high, I naturally will be discouraged from borrowing and investing. If they are lower, the opposite is true. And so lower interest rates are encouraged. We have seen the interest rates coming down from 16 to 8%. I expect that would come down to at a low of 5%. Now, that said, so I was just saying that so that at least I respond to his question. But you've asked the question of moving forward. What are the key steps forward? I think the president needs to just tell the IMF, I think we are good. We can take it from here. That's one of the things that we need to really, absolutely urgently think about, getting out of the IMF program. I know we have survived Eurobond 1 and Eurobond 2 courtesy of the IMF, but still, we need to tell the IMF, we're good. Leave us.
Do we have a plan if we tell them we're good?
Yes. And that plan must involve attracting investment. Because, as I mentioned, I started this story by giving you the failure of Uhuru Kenyatta. That Uhuru Kenyatta focused on borrowing as opposed to investment. And you look at the results out of it, is he actually did not manage to do what he set out to do, which is to spur accelerated growth.
Which actually begs the question, did he really intend to spur growth, or did he just intend to borrow?
No, bwana mimi nasoma ile imeandikwa kwa karatasi.
Well, I'm looking at the results. There was a narrative that circulated, and there was a narrative that justified the borrowing.
Right.
And if you look at the outcome, and the outcome is equals failure, then you have to ask the other question: was this borrowing really intended for development, or was it borrowing for borrowing's sake? What?
I wanted you to clarify that point, because I feel like you're saying was the borrowing malicious?
I am saying it was deliberate, and it was not intended for any development whatsoever. That is what I am saying.
Okay.
Yes. And so if this administration makes the same mistake, whether it is deliberate or accidental, we'll still find ourselves the same place we found ourselves by the time they're coming. In fact, we might find ourselves in a worse place. And so for me, the key focus is investments. 1, 2, markets. Open up markets. There are some low-hanging fruits across the country which we can still, open up markets for globally and make the world our playground for and get good money out of. That I still don't feel we have really exhausted. If we can open up those markets, we'll be good.
Are there sectors that we can revive that perhaps have been dead or extinct that we can bring back and make them profitable?
The natural landing point would be agriculture and manufacturing. And the two go hand in hand because one plays as raw material for the other. And right now manufacturing is really not doing as well as it should. Agriculture is no longer the number one income earner, yes, but it is the number one employer. And so there are areas like right now, the president has come to my home county and said broad-based. So now we are in broad-based government. And what's happening is we have infrastructure development. We have a hospital being built in Siaya. We have a stadium being built in Siaya. But the truth of the matter is, for as long as these people are not able to produce and sustain themselves economically, you really are not empowering them. And so how do you then ensure that these people are able to produce economically? Number one, markets. Credit, banks will come on their own when actually they know that these people have a market. So if we empower them to produce, that market will give us the money we lend out. They will come. So we need markets for, like in our area, sweet potatoes is a big thing. We need markets. We can farm cotton. It's historical been done. It can be done again. We need markets for sugarcane. The sugar industry is on its deathbed in the region. We can actually farm sugarcane and actually educate children with that money. And so those are monies. The only thing right now people are depending on is fishing. And fishing is finite. Like there's only a number of fish in the lake you can get, and the number of fish is reducing every year. The number of fishermen is increasing as the population expands. Naturally, that you can tell how that equation is panning out. And so we need alternative investments, and there's also an opportunity for rice farming both in Siaya and Kisumu county that is totally underutilized. And these are examples from my home county. They say all politics is local. Just examples from my own country. If we can actually put the money where our mouth is and say, can we open up markets for sweet potatoes and all these things, it can be done.
But let me ask you something, since you brought in a discussion around our counties. These governors whom we elect, do they have the bandwidth to understand the fundamentals that are needed to grow the economy of the county?
I have this idea that I have developed over time about leaders, city. I think we have some of the smartest leaders ever, intellectually, book-wise. I only think that the only gap in our country, whether it's leadership at that level or even at a low level in the communities, is ethics, integrity. So our ethics interfere with our proper thinking, and then the outcome is less than desirable, not because we lack capacity, but because we lack the intent and the ethics to bring out the right results.
The It's a good argument you put across, but how do you measure ability or capacity? That is manifested in the outcomes of the decisions that you make. If the outcomes are nil, then you have nil capacity.
Right.
Yes. So you may be academically inclined, and you may have had the ability to pass certain exams and write certain papers,
Right.
and to prove that you actually have that ability. That one is established. The translation of that into managing an economy, because that's what these counties are. By and large, the people who are voted in as governors in this country have proven time and time again that the managing of these economies are beyond them.
Right.
Because even when they decide that what they are going to focus on is in plundering, even in that they're inefficient.
Inefficient plundering.
Yes, exactly, because the Auditor General catches them flat-footed every so often. So you wonder, the intellect that you're supposed to have, why don't you employ it so that it actually works for you? You've decided that you are going to invest in a career of crime. Should you then not position yourself so that you are not easily characterized and proven to be one? Right. That's the whole point of crime, not to be caught. People don't become criminals to be caught.
Right.
No. They become criminals because there's financial gain, and the whole point of it is no one will catch you. But these ones, you don't even need to think. All you need is to open your eyes and you can see what they're doing.
Right.
So the bandwidth question that I ask, the results of what we see as the growth in this case, the lack of growth in the economies of our counties points to a complete absence of that bandwidth. Zero. They don't have it.
Totally agree.
Yeah. There's a story here in the this is the Standard, I believe, page 11, and it says Kenya unveils bold reforms to attract global investors into mining sector. So we can see the CS for mining and the blue economy. That is Cabinet Secretary Hassan Ali Joho, who's having a meeting with the Australian investors on margins of the African Down Under mining conference in Perth in Australia. We are trying to, attract in foreign investors to come into this country, but the economy is not, from what I understand and from what I have seen, because I've seen foreign people just shutting down their businesses and leaving.
Right.
So are we saying that now we are gearing up and we have the right environment for actually foreign investors to come and invest in this particular country?
No, but the process of creating an enabling environment for investment is a continuous one. One. Two, there are sectors that, yes, we might be doing very well in, like, for example, financial services. We managed to bring reforms in our financial services sector, and so you see some good investments coming in, bank after bank, and I think that is progressive. There are sectors that we are yet to get there in, like I feel manufacturing, as I had mentioned, is struggling from whatever angle. Now, is mining going to attract the investment that is desired? Do we have sufficient mining resources, or natural resources that are underutilized, that are available for these investors to utilize? What we know is that I think the only opportunity would be the newly discovered rare earth minerals around Embu. That could maybe attract an investor. But the oil in Turkana, see, that one Talo already has. The one in Kwale, titanium, see, that one already has an investor. The thing about the mining sector is it has limited scope, finite resources. So as immediately they are gone, they are gone. So as much, it doesn't matter how much you try to attract investors.
Are there any other areas of investment that foreigners can actually come and exploit?
Yes, if Waziri could focus on the blue economy, I think there is a great opportunity there. And blue economy means transport, blue economy means tourism, blue economy means farming. blue economy means shipbuilding. Blue economy means utilizing some of the sea resources. Blue economy means effective management of the environment. So some of those changing from the very outdated methods of production to one that is more friendly to the environment.
Yeah.
If he can get investors around that spectrum, both for the coast and for the other parts of the country where there are lakes, Lake Turkana remains underutilized. Even Lake Victoria, really, apart from fishing, and blue economy means fishing.
Yeah.
Apart from fishing, there's really very little going on. Tourism, the tourism around Lake Victoria is underutilized. And so if he can now get investment around those, hapo tunaongea.
I also feel like, as far as manufacturing is concerned, we are falling short, especially on pharmaceutical manufacturing. I have a very strong feeling that if we were to focus on pharmaceutical manufacturing, perhaps we can turn around the economy in a very big way. We are seeing countries such as India. I mean, I don't understand why every single pill we are taking nowadays, majority of those pills actually from India. And I'm like, why? Is it because we don't have the ingredients or the expertise?
No, it has not anything to do with that. One of the things, there's a word you use when you're talking about drugs, patent.
Yeah.
Right.
It protects that particular product and the ingredients in it. India does not respect patents.
So they produce generics.
Yes, they do not. That one, it's yours.
Si tutengeneze pia sisi kwenye shida iko wapi?
We do have pharmaceutical manufacturing in Kenya. We do have. Don't assume we don't have.
We actually.
And the reason,
even so, no, just ask the question.
No, the reason I'm saying this is because, for instance, when they withdrew their funding for ARVs, and we are here suffering, yet we have had HIV for how many decades now? Is it 4?
20.
Exactly. So we've had HIV for a very long time, yet we have never really had our own manufacturing plant, not even in Kenya, but just Africa in general. Malaria, another issue that we are facing. USAID withdrew. Now we are being told by doctors, oh, watu wataanza kukufa. And I'm asking myself, what will it take for us to actually focus on some of those areas that we can actually even manufacture for the rest of Africa?
Actually, the discussion, the question that you ask is a valid one, but when you are a third world country, the policies you have need to match your resources. We discussed this in an earlier hour. The curative approach to healthcare we can't afford. In fact, no country in the world can afford it. But more so, the focus on the preventative aspect, preventative and promotive, that needs to be a focus to the point where we preach it and sing it, and it can be done. You've heard of community health workers. You've heard of extension workers. You heard the discussion we had earlier on. It is not difficult to create or to just utilize curriculum that already exists and are gathering dust in the archives of Ministry of Health to have cadres of employees or workers within government. We had them, extension workers, who provide help at the most fundamental level of the society. Okay? The plans have existed. The execution have existed. We are a nation who, when we look at our development, we often measure it by the things that we had working for us and which we've lost over time.
Right.
And then we're trying to look for new things when in reality we actually know what ought to be done, and we've actually even done it before. The matter of manufacturing has to do with government policies and the ease with which people can do business. All right? If there is uncertainty, for instance, something about the tax regime, investors will be shy. If there is uncertainty, even within just the political environment, investors will be shy. But despite all that in this country, it's not that we don't have investors. We do. It's not that we don't have investors coming in. We do. Part of the problem that has been complained about is our culture of extraction and extortion. People within government who are supposed to enable these things demand a lot of money from would-be investors, and so they shy away.
When you say demand for money, you mean like
they want to be given money to allow you to do business.
We go back to the whole issue of integrity again,
Right.
and ethics.
Right.
All right. So it's not like we lack the expertise. It's not like we lack the manpower. It's not like we lack the land. We just have a lack of leadership.
Yeah, but talking about manufacturing of pharmaceutical products, I think we could do a lot more. And some of those drugs, producing, you might not need to produce the generic, but you can produce another drug that does the cure in the same way, a little tweaking of the original, if you get my drift.
Yep.
And I think that has been done severally, so that you could have several drugs curing the same thing, but totally different. I don't know where you come from.
Kitui County.
Ah, nice. I'm glad you've asked that question, because Kitui County has some of the best herbs that can be used in making pharmaceutical products, and this has been established time and again using research.
Kemri actually has an entire center dedicated to traditional health.
Right.
An entire research center.
In Kitui?
No.
Oh.
Kemri,
Oh.
Kenya, nani?
Bro, tulia.
He was having his moment.
Because he was talking about the way Kitui has got these resources.
Yes.
Natural herbs.
Yes, and I am saying, if you have natural herbs, it means you also have herbalists.
Yes.
And to move on to the stage where there's production, that's why I brought in Kemri.
Right.
Because they will determine the efficacy. They'll determine all the things that this thing can do, and even explain it to you scientifically. So I am saying we're not that far away, because we even have an institution that can ensure that you move on to the next stage. That's really the point I'm trying to make.
Correct.
Yeah.
And because then that means we have the raw materials needed, and we have the research required. And so all we need is an entrepreneur that can put together all these resources or factors of production together, and now come up with a proper pharmaceutical farm.
And by entrepreneur, you also mean that entrepreneur can be an investor.
Will definitely be an investor.
Yes.
We definitely have some companies that have patents that are manufacturing locally, but they are not doing it at the scale that is required. And I think that's why my brother here is complaining that there are drugs that we are lacking currently, merely on account of the role of donors, that we could actually produce locally.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Odhiambo. He has requested that he be let go at exactly 9:30. Unaenda State House?
My friend.
Yeah, he has a time-sensitive meeting that he has to attend to. So, Odhiambo Ramogi, thank you so much for coming through. I think we'll excuse you at this particular juncture, but we invite you again, as always. We like having these conversations that can actually move this country forward.
Indeed.
Talk about opportunities in Kitui County and ile mali ulisema aliona iliwanga Manywanda.
Kisumu County.
Iliwanga Manywanda.
In Kisumu County.
Uko Manywanda.
Luanda, which I mentioned, Migori County.
Yes.
But there are several Luandas.
Yes, we also have Luanda in Siaya.
Yes, you do. There's another Luanda just on the border of Vihiga County and Kisumu. There's another Luanda in Migori County.
Yeah.
The one I was referring to was the one in Migori County.
Right. So we invite you, Mr. Ramogi, to come back here. Let's talk about these opportunities that we can actually unlock in these particular places.
Absolutely.
So that even listeners who are listening in Siaya can be like, wait, did he just say that we have hubs here that I can actually exploit? Perhaps and even look for investors.
Kitui
County. Ndio nasema pia kuna Kitui, kuna Siaya, kuna
Siaya bwana.
Hamuna kitu.
I don't know. I've not seen hubs that are quality, pharmaceutical quality.
Yes. All right. So, nonetheless, thank you so much, and we welcome you once again.